George sat on the worn wooden bench, the morning newspaper folded neatly on his lap. The park was quiet at this hour, with only a few joggers passing by and the soft chirping of sparrows in the oak trees. He had been coming here every morning for years, sipping coffee from a paper cup and watching the world move on without him. At 78, George had grown used to silence. His wife had passed away 5 winters ago, and his children lived 2 states away, busy with lives of their own. The park, in a way, had become his living room. Here, memories came easily, especially memories of Henry, the boy who once knew every secret of his heart. They had been inseparable once, 2 reckless dreamers in a small town, promising each other that nothing would ever tear them apart. But life had other plans, and words said in anger many decades ago had built a wall neither dared to climb. This morning, however, something felt different. As George adjusted his glasses and looked across the park, his heart gave a sudden, unexpected leap. A man was sitting under the elm tree, white-haired, shoulders stooped, but with a face George would recognize anywhere. Henry, after all these years. Part 1, the encounter. George hesitated. His first instinct was to look away, pretend he hadn't seen him. After all, what could one possibly say after 40 years of silence? But the pull of memory was stronger than pride. Slowly, almost reluctantly, George rose from his bench and walked across the gravel path. Henry? His voice cracked, softer than he intended. The man looked up. His eyes, though clouded with age, widened with recognition. For a long moment, neither spoke. The years between them seemed to hang in the air, heavy and fragile. "George?" Henry finally whispered, as if testing the sound of the name. George gave a short laugh, unsure whether to smile or cry. "Well, I'll be damned. It really is you." Henry's lips twitched into something that was almost a smile. I thought I'd never see you again." They stood awkwardly for a moment, 2 old men shuffling their feet like boys in trouble. Then George gestured to the bench beside him. "Sit. I suppose we've got a lifetime to catch up on." Part 2, Memories Resurface. The conversation began haltingly, with comments about the weather, about aching knees and doctor visits. But soon, as the silence of the park embraced them, the years began to peel away. "Do you remember the summer of '62? Henry asked suddenly, his eyes distant. "When we built that ridiculous raft and tried to sail down Miller's Creek?" George chuckled, shaking his head. "Tried is the right word. We barely made it 50 yards before the thing fell apart." "And you sprained your ankle when you slipped on the rocks," Henry added, grinning. "You carried me half a mile back to town," George said quietly. "I never thanked you for that." Henry waved a hand. "We did those things for each other. That's what friends were for." The laughter faded into a gentler silence. For the first time in years, George felt the warmth of companionship, the kind that didn't need explanations or pretenses. And yet, beneath the surface, the old wound still pulsed. Part 3, the old wound. It was George who finally broke the silence. His voice was rough, as though the words had rusted inside him. "Henry, about that night." Henry's smile faltered. "I know." They both knew which night. The shouting in the bar, the bitter words about money and betrayal, about dreams that had slipped away. George had walked out that night, swearing he'd never speak to Henry again. "I was angry," George admitted. "Angry and proud. I thought you'd let me down. Maybe you did. But I let my pride get the better of me." Henry nodded slowly. His hands trembled slightly on his cane. "I did let you down. I borrowed the money without telling you, and when it failed, I was too ashamed to face you. I should have apologized, but by the time I found the courage, too many years had passed." George studied the lines on his friend's face, the deep creases carved by time and regret. 40 years is a long time to carry something like that. Henry's eyes glistened. "Not a day went by that I didn't think of it, or of you." For a long moment, neither spoke. The park noises seemed far away. The laughter of children, the bark of a distant dog. It was just the 2 of them, 2 old men finally facing the ghosts of their youth. Part 4, Forgiveness. George reached out, his hand trembling, and placed it over Henry's. "We wasted enough time being angry. Let's not waste whatever time we have left." Henry's shoulders sagged, as though a great weight had been lifted. He nodded, unable to speak. From then on, their mornings at the park became routine. They met on the same bench, sometimes talking, sometimes just sitting in comfortable silence. They played chess at the community center, argued about baseball, shared stories about children and grandchildren. It wasn't about erasing the past, it was about building something new on the ground that remained. Part 5. The Last Bench. One crisp autumn morning, George arrived early, his breath visible in the cool air. The bench was empty. He waited, sipping coffee, watching leaves tumble from the trees. But Henry didn't come. The next day, George learned from a neighbor that Henry had passed away in his sleep. Peacefully, they said. George returned to the park, his heart heavy. He sat on their bench, the silence louder than ever. But after a while, he found himself smiling, because for those last months, they had been boys again, dreamers, friends, brothers. He touched the bench gently, as though it were sacred. "Thank you, old friend," he whispered, "for coming back." The sparrows sang overhead, and George closed his eyes, letting the sound carry him. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel alone.